Okay. Good evening. We are the late edition of Daf Yomi. We're in Mem Aleph, Amud Beis. We'll get right into things. We're at Tanu Rabbanon, which is Kamachutin, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 lines from the bottom.
So they never numbered these.
I know, right? You think some Gemara would have, I'm sure there's a student edition someplace that has the Nikudos in it and has...
Speak Stefanski, he'll read that.
Tanu Rabbanon, a rabbi's word. Kamachutin hu nosein. How many strings do you have to put in your tzitzis? Right? You got this far. We talked about so many things. We never raised that, right? We knew
what is tzitzis.
Right. We did speak about the minimum, right? We did talk about 4 gedilim, right? We had mentioned that. Beis Shammai omrim arba'a. Beis Shammai said 4, which you fold in to make 8, and Beis Hillel omrim shlosha, and Beis Hillel says 3, which fold in to make it 6, right? V'kama tehei mishuleshes. So that's interesting, right? Because that means we hold like Beis Shammai in this case, right? Which is right. An interesting point. I'm not exactly sure why that is. I'd have to take a look and see. I mean, we know that it's based on the way that they're reading the word gedil, right? Gedil is 1. Versus Beis Shammai holds Gedil is 2, and then Gedilim means 4, and he says Gedil. Beis Hillel is saying Gedil is 1, and then Gedilim is 3, right? Okay.
The note here says that Maharal below on 43b cites the opinions in this brisa reversed.
Right, so it mentions
Shammai the 3.
So there you go. So it's not just us that see this weird, right? But it's so weird that people presume that the text is mixed up. The kamate mishuleshes. So how much do they have to be hung? So Beis Shammai omrim arba, 4 finger breadths. Beis Hillel omrim shalosh, 3 finger breadths, meaning how long from the corner do they have to be hung, right? You don't want it right on the corner. Shalosh shebeis Hillel omrim achas me arba batefach. The 3 fingers that Beis Hillel is saying, he's talking about your thumb, right? Which is 1/4 of a tefach, 1/4 of a tefach, right? You'll call it, right? Tefach is your fistful. So he says it's, I guess, the thickness of your etzba, which is 1/4, right? Right? Not the thumb, right? But he wants the fingers of, I guess, each finger, right? 1/4. Well, she'll call it, which means of an average person, right? You don't want not talk about the person who's got fat fingers. Amar Rav Papa. Rav Papa says tefach deoraisa arba begudal. Rav Papa says that it's a tefach. The tefach that we said is when we're talking about deoraisa rules, when we're talking about Torah rules, are 4 thumbs, meaning not really fingers, even though we normally think a fist is 4 fingers. It's really a little bit wider because the thumb is a little bit wider. And shis biktana, which is 6 small fingers, the pinky fingers, or chamesh betilsa, or 5 fingers, which are your regular size finger. So it's right, the 5-finger, 6-fingered man, you'd have like the extra finger. That's your tefach. It's a little bit wider.
Are those the same measurement, or they're?
I think they're all supposed to be the same measurement, right? 4 thumbs equals 5 fingers, which equals 6 pinkies.
Okay.
So that's all the same.
Cool.
Amar Rav Huna says arba betoch arba. He says that the tzitzis is that you're supposed to put 4 strings, and you put it within 4 finger breadths of the corner, umishuleshes, and then it should be hung over the corner arba. It should be, I guess, twisted and hung over 4 finger breadths. I guess that's the distance beyond that. For Rav Huda Amar Shlosha, Rav Huda says 3 strings, betoch shalosh, within 3 fingers of the corner, mishuleshes, shalosh, and it needs to hang over the corner by 3 finger breadths. Okay. So Amar Rav Papa says hilchasa, the halacha is arba, 4 strings, betoch shalosh, within 3 finger breadths of the corner, right? You take your, let's get a real close on. Start pulling out my shirt, right? It's the, right. We've got our 4 strings, right? We've got, this is 3 finger breadths, right? Within 3 finger breadths of the hole is 3 finger breadths from the corner, right? And so that's what it's supposed to be. Umishuleshes in the corner should be arba etzbaos, right? Should be at least 4 finger breadths, right? That's what that means. I'm not quite sure what that last part is. Mishul leshes. The corner is, I don't know if it's totally, it's in a, I don't know, what's that last part there? What does he say?
Hang down 4.
Hang down 4 finger breadths? Yeah. Okay, so that's that part. So I guess it has to be a decimal. We said there was going to be 12 finger breadths we had learned before, so I'm not exactly sure what that is. Maybe this part of the loop has to be a little bit longer, maybe that's what that means. Right? Maybe the loop, I don't know. Now what you're saying is that there is a size requirement for the strings of tzitzis. Uraminu, we have a contradiction to that. Pasuk says tzitzis, ain't tzitzis ela yotze. The word tzitzis, what's the shoresh? What's the root word of the word tzitzis? It says means yotze, it comes out, which means that the strings are supposed to come out of the garment. They're supposed to extend beyond the edge of the garment. Ve'ein tzitzis ela mashahu. There's no amount for tzitzis. All it has to be is a little bit, as long as it goes over a little bit. And we already know that the elders of Beis Shammai, the elders of Beis Hillel, they went up to the attic of Yochanan ben Beseira, the Amru, and they said, tzitzis ein la shiur, that there's no size for tzitzis. Kayotze bo, similarly, lulav, ein bo shiur, there's no size for lulav either. So therefore...
Is that why you go to Israel? You have guys holding these huge, giant...
Oh, so that's Yehuda's point is good, but you don't have little tiny lulavs. So my lav in lashir klal. What does that mean? That there's no size at all? Lo, obviously that is not the case because in lashir lamala it has no largest size. That's Yehuda's point, right? You go find these lulavs are huge. You can have the longest lulav you want. But there is a minimum size, and that's what we were giving before. The minimum size of tzitzis, you have a little bit of a minimum size.
The lulavs are so huge; they look like AI.
Right, so those are huge lulavs, and you can also, I think you think of a ravos, right?
No, those huge.
They have huge lulavs too?
You know those videos where the guy holding this huge, very tall lulav, this big ass rug?
Oh yeah. But the Teimanim do that. But I think that it's a ravos. I don't know. You think it's lulav and they do it too? I'm not sure. Okay, could be. So in any event, right? So fine. So therefore they have no largest size. So you can have your tzitzis hanging all the way down. Interestingly, I think it's the Baal Turim in Parshas Ekev, where he talks about the mitzvos that says V'haya Ekev Tishmu. You shouldn't have mitzvos that you trample upon with your feet. And Rashi says there are mitzvos that we consider unimportant, we trample over them. But the Baal Turim says no, literally you shouldn't have your tzitzis go so long that you step on them. So there is ultimately we don't want it that long, right? You don't want to trip over your tzitzis. De'ilo, and that's what people have their tzitzis on their talis, right? You have to be careful. If people have this nice long talis, don't get yourself a very big long talis that drag the tzitzis on the floor. De'ilo temahachi.
Only the color can you do that with the wedding gown.
Yes. De'ilo temahachi, because if you don't say that, kayotze be'lulav ein lo shir. What do you mean there's no size for a lulav? Hachinami dein lo shir klal. You're telling me that there's no size at all? That's none. We learned clearly in the Mishnah. Mishnah tells us lulav shegesh bo shlosha tfachim kedei lenanea bo. Kosher, you need a lulav that's 3 tfachim with enough to be able to wave. And we say, with enough to be able to wave, what do we mean? We need 3 tfachim plus 1 more tefach to hold it, right? So your lulav is 4 tfachim, right? That if you measure that, if you go up the shedra, up the spine, from where the spine is still visible, you need to have a lulav that has 4 tfachim, right? About this tall, right? 4 tfachim. So hachinami dein lo shir klal. So it's kosher. So ella ein lo shir lemalo. There's no upper limit, right? You can have as long as you want. Aval yesh lo shir lemata, but there is a minimum size hachanami. So that's what we meet here. Ein lo shir lemala, aval yesh lo shir lemata. There is a minimum size for tzitzis, not a maximum size. Tana Rabbanan Rabbi Zon. Tzitzis, vein tzitzis ella enough. The word tzitzis, right? Vasulam tzitzis. The word tzitzis means that they are separated from where they are, it means they are dangling down their fringes. That's like where they're separated from when they are bundled together. V'chein hu omer, also it says in Yechezkel, vayikacheni b'tzitzis roshi, he grabbed me by the fringes of my hair, right? Hair is, I guess if you get long enough hair, it spreads out, right? So that's what tzitzis is supposed to look like. V'amar Abai says, v'tzarech lifruda, you've got to separate your tzitzis, right? You know, people have them, they get all tangled up, right? That's not what you want. You've got to untangle your tzitzis, kitzutzisa deramoy, so that they look like Arameans' hair. I guess the non-Jews, one of the things that they did was they have their long hair and they would keep it loose, right? So it was I guess they braided it up above and then they hung it loose down below. Tana Rabbanan.
If your tzitzis, one streak starts unwinding, will they make a tussle or it's all cool?
No, well, we said that if they start unwinding, only one of the knots is necessary. It would be something that should be fixed. Hitil al hakeren. Okay, let's say you put the knot of the tzitzis on the corner of the talis, o al hagedil, or you put it on the string, the thick string, which they would use on the hem of the garment, so that the garment wouldn't come undone. Kshera, then that's kosher. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov posel b'shtein. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says that's no good. Right? You can't put them in that area. Kaman nazla hadamar Rav Gidol Amarav. What is this? Who is this going like that? Rav Gidol Amarav says tzitzis tzrich shteino tefes ala keren shenemar al kanfei vigdehem, that the tzitzis have to be touching or hanging over the corner, right? Meaning that you have to put the hole into the garment so that they're hanging over the corner. Kiman, it's Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. It's like Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, what he says. Because Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, he says that you can't put it onto the hem. You can't hang it from the edge here, right? You have to put it a little bit from the corner so that the tzitzis are hanging over the corner. What did I say? Amar Rav Yaakov, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yaakov said to Rabbi Yochanan, "V'tzarich sheyarchik milo kesher gudal." The distance that your tzitzis have to be from the corner is the knuckle of your thumb, right? Which is the first, I guess, from the top of, I think it's from the top of your thumb to the knuckle, right? So you got to at least be that distance. The itzrich de Rav Papa, v'itzrich de Rabbi Yaakov. And I need both the statements of Rav Papa and Rabbi Yaakov, who said essentially the same thing, that he didn't want us putting the tzitzis, tying the tzitzis to the very end of the corner. Dimi de Rav Papa, he said, Rav Papa, havamina toch shalosh hu delod lirak tfei. Rav Papa is telling me you don't want to go too far. Right? You can't get too far away. It can't be more than 3 finger breaths away. V'kama de mikariv mali, but you want to get as close as you possibly can. And it's just Rabbi Yaakov. Then we've got Rabbi Yaakov who says, so therefore I need what Rabbi Yaakov says, that you've got to be a little bit distant from the corner, a little bit by a thumb, right? You can't get too close, right? And if I had ve'i mi Rabbi Yaakov, if all I had was Rabbi Yaakov is havamina milo kesher godol deloli kartfei, I can't get too close to the corner. I've got to be a little bit distant. But derachik mali, but further away is good, right? Go as far into the garment as you want. So therefore, tzrich, I need both of them. Basically, they're telling me I've got a minimum size and a maximum size, right? I got to be at least this far away and at most that far away, right? You don't want your corner way much further away, right? This is a good one, right? Because I've got my thumb, and I'm not sure I'm supposed to measure from the diagonal, right? Or whether it's from the corner itself. I think that's a good question. Hadn't thought of until right now, right? But the thumb is going to be that measure, so that's pretty good. Yeah. And if I pick my 3 fingers, that's pretty good too.
Is there a problem with the talis? That why you chose that one?
No. I just grabbed this one. Just grab one. Over, right? Okay. Okay. So. Where were we? Okay, Ravina of Rav Sama, Havu Yosvi, Kami de Ravashi. Ravina and Rav Sama, they were sitting before Ravashi. Chazia Rav Sama, Lakarni de Glimi de Ravina. Love these stories, right? He saw the corners of the garment of Ravina, not Karni, Karne, right? Which is the corner. Desasar, it was ripping. Ubatar mimelo kesher gudal, and the hole, right? We reinforced the stitching, right? But his was already ripping, and it was getting close to the edge. Okay, so Amar Le, so he said to him, Lo Safar Mar, Lahod Rabbi Yaakov, don't you hold like Rabbi Yaakov? Can't get that close to the edge. So Amar Le, so he said to him, Bishas Asiya Itmar. He says, no, that's only when you make the tzitzis originally. If they tear and they get close, there's another one of those halachos by tzitzis, which is that at the outset, when you make it in the first place, it has to be okay. But if it tears and gets closer afterwards, it's not okay. Well, if it tears afterwards, it's still okay. Ichsif, so he was embarrassed, right? He thought he had got him, and then he turns out he was wrong, right? Sometimes you want to give a tochacha to a person, and then it turns out that he answers back to you, and he knows what he's talking about. That's embarrassing. Okay, so Amar Le, Ravashi, so Ravashi says to him, Lo tiskifilech, don't be embarrassed, right? Chad minayhu kitrei minon. One of them is like 2 of us. right? He's from Eretz Yisrael. That's, you know what that, they're twice as smart as us. So don't get upset. He's from Eretz Yisrael. It's okay. It's okay. Rav Acha bar Yaakov, Rami Arba. So Rav Acha bar Yaakov, he put 4 strings into the garment. Va'ayif lehu mi'ayif. And what he did was he took this and he took a loop. He strung that through the holes so that he had the loop come out one side, and then he took the strings and he tucked them through so that he made just like a slip knot. So that he just, instead of tying it like we double knot it, he just made a slip knot through it. Okay, so that's what he did. Umayluhu beglima, and he put the double side through the talis ve'avik lehu mevik, and then he took the other sides of the strings on the other side, and he looped that through, right? I don't know if you have a picture, but I've actually, they drew a nice little picture here where they took the slip knot and he just looped it through, right? Just to see, I guess that's how he was doing it. Kasavar be'inan timanya beglimo, right? The reason why he looped it over is because he was trying to get eight strings there. Ki hechi dilahave gedil gedilim, so that he would satisfy the pasuk, which says gedil gedilim. Now he had 2 strings, right? If you're thinking about it, right? So he had 2 strings, and he looped it through, and then he came out the other side. How was it? Is that? I guess he doubled he doubled it and doubled it again. Is that how that's working? I'm not sure how that comes out to 8. Right?
Yeah.
Not sure where that's 8. That's how it's 8. Okay, because here's why. Here's why it's 8. So let's draw it. I think this is why. I'm counting 6. So I'm not exactly sure how it's 8, but
19 wrong board.
yeah. This is what he did, right? So he's got his talis here, right? And he tucks the 2 strings. So now he's got a loop and he's got a second one there. And then he's got on this side 2 strings that come down through here, and he tucks those through and they come out the other side. So I guess on this side he's got 1, 2. On the other side he's got 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm only counting 6. I'm not quite sure where it got to be 8.
You do 10 right there.
Huh?
What do you do schiz?
Yeah. So I'm not quite sure where he gets the 8 here, unless I'm not understanding. Yeah.
Here they're saying that he held that you have to have 8 strings instead of, like the way that we have it is 4, right? 4 that we put through, but he was saying that you have to have 8 threads that go through the hole. So I don't know how that works exactly.
Yeah.
Is he saying that he's got 2 strings? Because he's only using 2 strings here, right? So maybe he's only using 2 strings and it's times 4 corners, and that's how he's getting 8? Yeah, that's how he's doing it. That's what he is. He's got 8 strings on his garment because he's only doing 2. He's counting as 2 strings. He uses 2 strings on each corner. That's how he gets to 8. So that's a whole different way of looking at it. So b'makom psil. So he says 8 total. 2 strings in each corner, right? Right, so therefore you need 2 on b'makom psil. You need gedilim, a gedil, which is 2 threads, and then it says gedilim double, so you need that in your corners. I think that's how he's looking at that.
Here they're saying,
Yeah.
that he would first, they're saying here that he would affix 4 threads to each corner. He would first fold them in half to form 8 strands.
So he did it with 4.
So he took 4, but instead of putting the 4 through the hole like we do, he first took it and folded it in half.
And then he put the loop through.
Strings going through.
That's what it is. So that's what he's pointing. So by doubling it first, he's saying that, like the way that this is, there's only 4 strings going through the hole.
Yes.
Right.
By doubling it first and then putting the loop through, he had 8 strings going through the hole. That's what's going on here. Okay. Rav Yirmiyah midifta Rami. We don't do it this way. Rav Yirmiyah midifta Rami timanya de'inhu shitzar. So Rav Yirmiyah, he took 8, doubled them over, which makes 16. Lo avik lahu, but he didn't tie them. He didn't, I guess, double them over, right? He had extra thread. He had 8 threads that way, right? Mar braid Ravina avid kedidon, and Mar, the son of Ravina, does it our way, which means even in the Gemara at time they were looking at those and going, those are not normal ways. Which they take 4 strings and they would loop them through and then tie them up, and that's how they would get 8. Rav Nachman ashkechel Rav Ada bar Ava Rami Chute. So Rav Nachman saw that Rav Ada bar Ava was putting strings in his talis, and he made a bracha as he was making the tzitzis.
What bracha did you make on it?
Lasos tzitzis. I'm glad you asked. Lasos tzitzis. He made the bracha. Lasos tzitzis. Why not? Yeah. The Torah says, "Ve'asu lahem tzitzis." You shall make tzitzis. Yeah. Therefore, it's a mitzvah d'oraisa to make tzitzis. So he's making the bracha.
Why is that? When we make tzitzis, we just say the shemitzvah tzitzis.
That's correct. We do not do this.
What's the reason?
We'll get it there. Amar lei my tzitzi shemano. So Rav Nachman says to him, "What do I hear? What do I hear? This tzitzis? What are you talking tzitzis? I hear you, because even when you're whispering, right? That's people hear tzitzis, right? He says, what is I'm hearing? So Achiyama Rav tzitzis ain't tzricha bracha. He says you're wrong. Rav says you don't need to make a bracha when you make tzitzis. Making tzitzis is a machshir hechsher mitzvah. So it's not. It's just the mitzvah is wearing the tzitzis. Kinach nafshi de Rav Huna. When Rav Huna died, al Rav Chisda lemirma de Rav Adarav. So Rav Chisda came to the base medrash in order to show a contradiction in the words of Rav. Rav did Rav really hold that you're not supposed to make a bracha when you make tzitzis? Ha Amar Rabbi Yehuda Rav. Didn't Rabbi Yehuda say in Rav? How do I know that if a non-Jew makes tzitzis, they're puzzle? Right? If I have a non-Jewish person make tzitzis, right? So you can get like these Israeli shops, right, and you can get a whole bunch of Filipinos in there to make your tzitzis for you. Right. No good. Can't do it. Shenamr's pasuk says, "Daber el bnei Yisrael v'asulem tzitzis." You have to speak to the Jewish people, and they have to make the tzitzis. Bnei Yisrael yasu v'lo havdei kocham yasu. It means non-Jew can't make tzitzis.
What if some guy came in, a Jew, made that first knot, and then a non-Jew took over?
That's a good question. Yeah, it would seem potentially l'shem mitzvah tzitzis. I'm not sure that it would work.
After you do the one, blah, 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 you're not within
the reason why we say that you only have to say l'shem mitzvah tzitzis at the beginning is because of the principle that we had learned before when we were talking about pigul, is that your first statement and then you finish the action, what you said first, if you don't say anything else, continues the action all the way through.
Right.
So therefore, that's why that works. I still think that you can't have him making any part of it. V'hab my rumya. So okay. So what is where's the contradiction? Okay. So that means non-Jew can't do it. Okay. So I'm Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef says kasavar Rav Chisda. Rav Chisda held kol mitzvah shekasher bo v'kochavim. If there's a mitzvah that a non-Jew could do it, be Yisrael ain't tzarich levarich. Then if a Jew does it, you don't need a bracha because it can't be a mitzvah if the non-Jew's allowed to do it. Kol mitzvah shepsula bo v'kochavim. If there's a mitzvah that a non-Jew cannot do, be Yisrael tzarich bracha levarich. Then a Jew has to make a bracha. Uklalahu. So he says, is that a rule? Is that a rule? That's always that way. If the non-Jew. So therefore, another point is that since the non-Jew can't make tzitzis, so it must be that you're supposed to say bracha. So it's a contradiction. So is that really a rule? V'harei mila diksher bo v'kochavim. What about a bris milah? A non-Jew could do a bris milah, a kosher bris milah, right? Because they have a doctor, right? You could do kosher bris milah. Detanya, we learn in a brisa. Ir she'ein barofe Yisrael. If you've got a city, there's no Jewish doctors in that city, right? V'yesh barofe aramai. You have a non-Jewish doctor.
You have a non-Jew who does a Shev Zveda, for example.
Sorry?
You have a non-Jew who does a Shev Zveda.
This is going to be a bris milah, much more serious, right? You can't do that one wrong. Verofe kusi. You also have a kusi doctor, right? So he's sort of Jewish, but not keeping everything, right? Or they converted, but they weren't converted. So, Yamu Aramai Val Yamu Kusi. Better get the non-Jewish doctor, don't get the Kusi doctor, right? Div Rabbi Meir says, Rabbi Yehuda says, Kusi V'lo Aramai. Get the Kusi, don't get the non-Jew, right? Ubi Yisrael Tzarech Levarich. Nevertheless, when a Jew does bris milah, Jew has to make a bracha, right? Da Amar Mar. Hamal Omer, the one who's doing the bris milah, says, Baruch HaShem Hashem Mitzvah Zivar Al Milah. Right?
Before they slice it.
That is right. Over the last season, right before. So now, the Gemara says, Midihu taima ella lirav. What was the whole point here? We were trying to show that we were trying to understand Rav's opinion, right? Rav mifsal pasal. Rav says a non-Jew can't do a bris milah. So therefore, that's why it needs to be a bracha. He's consistent, right? But others might say that just if a non-Jew can do it, a Jew might still be able to make a bracha.
No.
It's Rav who says that there's a connection between those 2 points.
Even you're a Jew, you can't do it. You need to hire a moil to do it for you sometimes.
That's only because we're not expert in doing it, right? But if a regular Jew did it, it would be kosher. De itmar, as has been said, minayin lamila ba'ovei kochavim. How do I know a non-Jew can do a bris milah? Shipsula, and if he does it, it's pas. Sorry, minayin lamila ba'ovei kochavim shipsula. How do I know that a non-Jew who does a bris milah, it's pasul? Daro bar papa mishmei derav amar. This Daro bar papa of the Siyum fame, right? He says in the name of Rav, ve'ata as brisi tishmor. Right, you have to guard my bris, meaning you have to guard it. Only a Jew can do a bris milah, not a non-Jew. Rabbi Yochanan says, himol yimol. That means the pasuk says, the one who is the himol yimol, which is double language, hamal yamul. The one who is circumcised can do a circumcision. Okay, so question, of course, keeps coming up, like, what about a woman? Can a woman do a bris milah? Not so simple, right? Not so simple. If a woman could do it, also because they can't get a bris, so therefore, but it's not that they're not obligated as Jews, right? What about a woman tying tzitzis? So also not.
We had it here, Rabbi.
But it's
We had it here. We had it here with the.
When a woman tie tzitzis,
We had it here when we.
right? Not so simple. Not so simple, right? Not so simple that a woman could tie tzitzis for a man, right? So it's subject to machlokas rishonim. So whoever was making it, if was making it for their child, right potentially.
Right.
Or for the soldiers.
Could be an issue for that soldier.
So you should say your phone on that.
We do.
Okay. Sukkah misayeh. What about sukkah? Right. So he says that sukkah supports. So sukkah that by sukkah. And tefillin harei tiyuvtei, and tefillin is going to be a question against him. How so? Harei sukkah dekshir bovei kochavim. A sukkah can be built by a non-Jew. Right? You can hire your person to go non-Jew can build your sukkah. Detanya we're in a brisa. Sukkahs ovdei kochavim. If you have a sukkah that is built by a non-Jew, sukkahs noshim, or a sukkah that's built by women. Again, they're not obligated, but they buy it, they build it. Sukkahs behema. If I have a sukkah that was made for animals, right? Sukkahs kusim, a sukkah for kusim, sukkah mikol makom. Any of those circumstances are any type of sukkah, they are kshera. All of the sukkahs, the walls are built, they're fine. The only thing is
you have to put the
put this in, that's correct. So the Bryce says they can make the sukkah. Ubi Yisrael ain't tzarich levarich, and a Jew does not have to make a bracha. Right? Because so you see that a non-Jew can do it, Jew doesn't make bracha, therefore sukkah supports his rule.
The only time you make a bracha when sukkahs comes and you're sitting in the sukkah.
When you're sitting in the sukkah, correct. Detanya, as we learn in a brisa, ha'osa sukkah la'atzmo, if somebody's making a sukkah for himself, omer baruch Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, shechiyanu v'kimanu v'yiganu l'zman hazeh, which we don't even do. We don't make a bracha shechiyanu when we make a sukkah. We only make the sukkah when we sit in the sukkah. Ba le'shev ba. But when you come to sit in the sukkah, you make the bracha. When you make a sukkah, lo mevarich, you don't make a bracha. Okay, tefillin, I believe, not mistaken, that the Teimanim do make a bracha on a sukkah. Possible. It's possible. I remember that when they're building it. It could be. Tefillin tiyuvtei, but tefillin goes against his rule. V'harei tefillin de psul, because tefillin psuls b'ovei kochavim. A non-Jew is not allowed to make tefillin. Detani, Rabbi Chinina Brei de Rava, Rav Chinina, the son of Rava, says, Mif Sharanya Sefer Torah Tefillin Umezuzos Shekosvan Tzeduki. Right? So, sorry, that was his name of his place. Mipasharanya, Rabbi Chinina Brei de Rava from Psharanya, which I was not pronouncing. I'm still not pronouncing it right. So a Sefer Torah, Tefillin, and Mezuzah, Shekosvan Tzeduki. If a Tzeduki writes a Sefer Torah, Tefillin, or Mezuzah, Kusi Ove Kochavim, or a Kusi, or a non-Jew, Eved, Knani, a non-Jewish slave, Isha, a woman, the Katan, or a minor, Mumar, or somebody who is not observant, Psulin. All of those are puzzle, because Shenamar, as the pasuk says, ukshartam uchsavtam. Kol sheyeshnu b'kshira yeshnu b'ksiva. If you're obligated to tie tefillin, then you can write tefillin. Right? So, okay, kol mishna b'kshira and b'ksiva. Somebody who doesn't put on tefillin can't write them and can't write a mezuzah and can't write Sefer Torah. Ubi Yisrael. And yet, since it has to be done with a Jew, nevertheless, if a Jew does it, he doesn't have to make the bracha. He doesn't make a bracha on writing tefillin. As Rav Chia, the son of Rav Huna, said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, Al tefillin shel yad omer baruch asher kedishon mitzvah mitzvanu lahaniach tefillin. Al tefillin shel rosh omer baruch asher kedishon mitzvah mitzvah tefillin. The ilasos tefillin lo mavarach. There's no bracha lasos tefillin. Okay, so that's a question. Ella lav hainu taima. So rather, this is why that there are mitzvahs that you make a bracha, and there are some that you don't make a bracha when you make them. Let's decide, when do you make a bracha, when you don't. Kol mitzvah de asiyasa gemar mitzvah, the answer is, whenever there's a mitzvah that making it is the completion of the mitzvah, kegon mila, for example, bris mila, right? Mm-hmm. That is the end of the mitzvah. You do it, and that's it. So then, it doesn't matter about the non-Jewish issue. That non-Jewish issue was not a point. Right? So even though it's kosher by a non-Jew, the Jew has to make the bracha when he does it. And any mitzvah where doing it isn't the completion of the mitzvah could go in tefillin, like for example tefillin, right? You make a tefillin. That's not a mitzvah yet. The mitzvah is when you put it on. Even though a non-Jew is pasul, the Jew does not have to make a bracha. But tzitzis b'hakamiflagi. This was the point of the argument by tzitzis. Mar savar chovas talasu. Remember our old argument yesterday. Is the obligation on the garment or is the obligation on the person? If you hold that the obligation is on the garment, then tying the tzitzis is the mitzvah. Therefore, you make a bracha when you tie the tzitzis. Mar savar chovas gavra. The other one says, no, it's an obligation on the person. Therefore, you don't make any bracha when you're tying it. Amar Rav Mordechai, the Rav Ashi, so Mordechai says to Rav Ashi, Oten hachi masni sula. That's how you learn this statement of Rabbi Yehuda in the name of Rav, that a non-Jew who makes tzitzis is not kosher, right? That's what the issue was. A non-Jew, that was the whole question started with, a non-Jew can't make tzitzis. This was our question. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Marav, Rabbi Yisrael Rav, minayin tzitzis ba'ovei kochavim shekshera. How do I know that a non-Jew is allowed to make tzitzis? Shnamar pasuk says, "Dabero b'nei Yisrael v'asulam tzitzis ya'asu lahem chayrim." Tell b'nei Yisrael and have tzitzis made for them by somebody else. Right. So therefore, you don't. According to him, tzitzis can be made by a non-Jew. Right. We generally don't have that. When we say l'shem mitzvah tzitzis, they should be made l'shem mitzvah tzitzis and be made by a Jew. Amar Rav Yehuda Marav. Rav Yehuda saying Rav. Asan min kotzim. If you make your tzitzis out of strings that are coming out of the garment, min hanimin, or from stitching that are on the edge of the bed of the garment that is left over at the end, min hagardin, or from I guess the edges from where it was woven, right? So psula, all of those are puzzle, right? The stitches can't be the tzitzis can't come from part of the existing garment. Min hasisin. If you are sisim, I'm not sure what those are. What are sisim?
But if one made it of thread, taken from ordinary balls of weaving thread.
Okay, balls of weaving thread. Basically, but you are taking them and you're putting it in for tzitzis. That's the bottom line. Is kshira, those are kosher. Kamrise kami de Shmuel. When I said that in front of Shmuel, Amar af minasisim sula. No, even those threads from the bull yarn, puzzle. Deba'in and tvia lishma. Why? Because when you use tzitzis threads, it has to be made l'shem tzitzis. And that means the thread itself has to be made l'shem tzitzis. So you cannot just go to the store and buy a roll of wool thread. You have to go to the tzitzis store and buy from the Judaica store with a hechsher on it. Right. Because it has to be spun l'shem mitzvah tzitzis. So tonight, that's a machlokes. Tzipon zahav, if you covered the tefillin with gold, right? You make gold tefillin boxes. O shetala alein or behema tmeya. Or you make your tefillin boxes out of a non-kosher animal, psulos. Those are non-kosher boxes of tefillin, right? Or behema tahora, if you have a kosher animal, ksheros, then that's fine. Your tefillin have to be made from a kosher animal. V'afal pi shelo ibdan lishman, even if you don't tan the animal, tan the hide, for the sake of the mitzvah of tefillin, right? So tanning is a process. I spent some time watching a video today, it's about 10 minutes, on how to tan hides, but I guess they take them and they put them into a soaking mixture for like half a day, and they put lime into the mixture, and then that removes all the hair, and they scrape it all off. All that, and then it goes in and it gets soaked for a couple of days. In any event, all that happens, you don't need it l'shem mitzvah tefillin. I don't know what I'm using it for. I could be making parchment out of it. I could be do whatever I'm doing with it. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says, "Af or behema tahora psulos ad sheyavnu lishma." He says, nope, it has to be done from the beginning, from the tanning of the hide, just like he says by tzitzis, you have to spin it l'shem mitzvah tzitzis. The tanning of the hide has to be l'shem mitzvah tefillin. Okay. Amar le Abai of Shmuel bar Rav Yehuda. So Abai is sister of Shmuel, the son of Rav Yehuda. Ha techelta hechi tzav isula. What is the process of dyeing for tchelas? So Amar le, so he said to him, Masnisen, Maisinon dam chilazon. First you got to get the blood of a chilazon. Ve'samanin. And then you need some extra simonim, which are, I guess, are spices that go along with it. Some other ingredients.
The herbs, that's right.
Right? So, veramin lehu, biyora. You put all of it into a pot. Martechinon, lay, and then you boil it up. Vishaklina purta bebeasa. You take a little bit out into a eggshell. Right? You need a little small test container. So you're going to test the dye. So you take some out. Vitaminon lehu beudra. And then you take a little bit of wool and you dip it into that, and to be able to make sure that it catches well, that the dye is good. Shadina le lahu biasa. You got to throw that dye out. Since that dye, why? That dye was the test dye. And so therefore, as we had learned before, the test dye can't be used. Ve'kalina le leudra. And you burn the wool that you tested with. Can't use it. So you don't want to keep it around because somebody will make a mistake and use it. So therefore you're going to burn it. Shema mina plus, you see three things from here. Number one, Shema mina te'ima psula. Number one, that the test, the item you take for the test is possible. You can't use it. Shema mina deba'inan tzvia lishma. Second of all, you need to dye it l'shem the mitzvah of tchelas. And the third is Shema mina te'ima pasla. That when you are that the test strip that you use to test the dye is also puzzle. So, what do you mean? That's the same thing. Hainu tzima psula, hainu tzavia lishma. You said twice, right? I get it that the leftover ink is no good. The leftover wool is no good. But the fact that you have to dye it lishma, why is the wool no good? Because you had to dye it lishma. It's the same thing. So Amar Rav Ashi says, matam kamer. It's just explaining it. Matam tzima psula. Why is it that the test material is no good? Mishum deba'inan tzavia lishma, because it has to be dyed l'shem the mitzvah of tchelas. Tonight, that's also machlokas tanayim. Tamaps pasla. If you test the thread, so then it is the test the dye, so then it's pasal. Mishum shnimar, as pasuk says, kalil techelas. Right, it means has to be completely. The garment has to be completely dyed blue. Right, that. Right, that you are. So I guess that from Kli Tchelos means it has to be pure, meaning that the test that you take out of it is that you take for a test is no good, right? So it's not part of the main batch of the Tchelas, so therefore it's no good. Rabbi Yochanan ben Dahavai Omer, Rabbi Yochanan ben Dahavai says, Afilu Mara Sheni Sheba Kosher. Even after you've used this dye to dye a garment already, the leftover part that's in there is still kosher. Why? Mishum shnemar ushni tolas. Because the pasuk says ushni tolas. Shni is like from the word second. So meaning that you can use it a second time. It doesn't become, say like that the main part of the dye was already drawn out. This is no good. Nope, that's still okay. Tanar Rabbanan Omer. Tchelas ein lo bedika. So tchelas, there's no way of checking it. That's what it sounds like, right? There's no way to be able to check.
You can't check how we know if it's kosher tchelas.
I'm sorry?
You can't check how we know
if you can't check it or if you can check it.
If you cannot check it.
So you have to go buy it from a reliable person, right? You better buy it from a reliable person. So therefore, ein nikachas ela min hamumche. you've got to buy it from an expert person, right? You can't just go to the supermarket and buy tchelas, right? You have to be able to buy it from somebody who knows the halachos of dyeing, because if he does it wrong, he doesn't know about throwing away the test whenever, so then he's going to ruin the tzitzis, so you got to buy it from an expert. Tefillin yesh lehem bedika. A tefillin you can check, right? You can always look at the osios and check to make sure that the letters are done right. Nevertheless, you have to buy it from an expert person, right? Because you have to make the leather, the shema, and all of that. Sfarim umezuzos, Sefer Torah and mezuzos, yesh lahen bedika. You can check them to make sure that they're fine. V'nikchan mikol adam. You can buy them from anybody, right? Because you can always check it, right? So, because you don't have to make the klaf lishma. So therefore, there's not a lishma issue, right? So therefore,
but the writing you said
I know that was bothering me. Well, we said that we did say that, but I also was worried you can't make them out of order. Right, so theoretically, I don't know that this mezuzah wasn't written like they did the second paragraph and then they went back into the first paragraph. So I'm not 100% sure, but I guess because I'm not 100% sure why we should need to check it, go from a reliable source. I think in practice nowadays we do, but it would seem that either this is of an opinion that you don't have to worry about that, or that wasn't common, or something about that. Utchelas ein lebedika. Now, the question we ask is, there's no way to check tchelas. V'ha Rav Yitzchak braid Rav Yehuda badik le. We know that Rav Yitzchak, the son of Rav Yehuda, he had a method for testing the strings. Maisi magbiya gila umaya deshavlilsa. He would bring water that came from... not sure where that is. What is that?
It says he would bring alum.
Alum. Okay.
Alum.
That's it's a type of a mineral.
Straw? No, wait a minute.
Where are we? Number 40. I'll let you know right now. Number 40. Russia, according to Russia, means straw.
Yeah.
Okay, so he would bring some kind of from material there. Umeme raglayim, and he would bring urine ben arbaim yom, which was 40 days old, which either means that it was 40 days sitting, or it was from a child that was at least 40 days old, right? Because you wanted to be strong enough. Uvetari le begavaihu, that was used as a detergent. Remember, we had used it before as a detergent. Vetari le begavaihu, and then you would put the tchelas into it. Me'ur savat safra, from morning till night, till the afternoon. I'm sorry, from night until morning. Ipreid chazusei, if the dye started to come off, psula, then you know that's not tchelas. Tchelas is stronger than that, right? Once tchelas gets into the material, you're not getting it out with this detergent. Lo ipreid chazusei, if it didn't ruin the color, then it's kosher. So he had a test for it. For Rav Ada Kamei de Rava Mishmei de Rav Avira Amar, and Rav Ada, in front of Rava, in the name of Rav Avira, he said, Maisi Chamira Arkaso Desare, he would bring a barley that was from a yeast, a barley yeast from like the sourdough kind of a thing that you would have now. It was with hair cracks, so like it was already started to. So that was used as a detergent. Va'api le begave, and he would put the tchelas into it and bake it in the oven inside that. Ish denai lemal yusa. If it got better looking from that kshera, then you know it's tchelas. Ligariusa. If it gets worse, then psula. Okay, so that's how you would know. V'simanech. The way to know is shinui sheker. A change is a lie, shinui emes, right? But then there's a change is good, meaning that if the change is better, then you know it's good tchelas. If the change is bad, you know it's bad tchelas. My ein la bedika, nami dekamar ateima. So the answer, what we say is, when we say that there is no checking, we mean that there's no way to check whether this is from the test material, right? Because that's really tchelas. That wouldn't be able to test chemically. That's a lishma issue. So therefore, that's what we can't do. Mar mimashki, Mar, who is from Mashki, aisi techilta b'shnei Rabbi Achai. So he brought tzitzis with tchelas during the times of Rav Achai. Badkua b'der Rav Yitzchak braid Rav Yehuda. They checked it to see if it was really tchelas with the test of Yitzchak braid Rav Yehuda ve'iprod chazusei, and it got worse. B'der Rav Ada, then they tested in Rav Ada's testing method, and it got good, it got better. So the testing methods contradicted each other. So now what? So Savar Lemif Saleh. They thought, okay, we are going to have to say it's right. It's going to be puzzle because it didn't pass one of the tests. So Amar Lahu Ravachai says, Elaha lo ticheltahi velo kali ilan. He says, that makes no sense. It can't be tchelas because it got worse, and it can't be kali ilan because it got better. So what is it? El shmamina shmuusa ahada ade itmar. That these two statements, that Rabbi Yitzchak and Rav Ada were both saying it about each other, meaning that was the test was Heicha de badakna, when you test the threads, Rav Yitzchak Braid Rav Yehuda, test it with Rav Yitzchak Braid Rav Yehuda's method. Lo iprad chazusei, if it doesn't get worse, it's kshera, then it's kosher. Iprad chazusei, if it gets worse, then then you go to the second test. And then you check it with the second method. Bechamira arkisa, with the barley yeast. Ishtani l'mal yusa, if it gets better after that, kshera, then it's kosher. L'griyusa psula, and if it's worse, then it's pasul. Shalchu mitam, so they sent from Eretz Yisrael, shma'usa ha'dei itmar, that in fact, yes, these were two statements made on each other. So therefore, it's a battery of tests. And as long as it got good at the end, it must have been acceptable. Rabbi Money, right? Dayak vizovin kechumre masnisa. So Rabbi Money, so he was a merchant and he was buying tzitzis. So he would investigate them and he would only buy them from a mumche and he would sell them like the stringency of the brisa, right? That he says that you should only get it from an expert. Amar le'ahu Saba, a certain elder said, Hachi avud kamay de kamach. This is what they did in the older generations, v'atzlach iskaihu, and their businesses were successful, right? In other words, because you were doing it properly, Hashem will take care of your business if you do things properly. So that is a good idea. If you buy a talis that already has the tzitzis on it in the marketplace, mi Yisrael, so if you buy it from a Jew, harehi b'chezkasa, then you can presume it was kosher, right? If you go to the I don't know about the shuk, right? Go to the Jewish store, right? So then you can buy tzitzis there, and it's fine. If you buy it from a non-Jew, mina tagar, or from a non-Jewish market, kshera. So then it is. How
would it be kosher if it's baseball from a non-Jew?
Yeah, it's a good question.
Maybe it could have been made by a non-Jew.
So you're presuming. Right, you're presuming that he bought it from a Jew, right? And he's telling you that it was made by a Jew, and the fact is that he has got a business to run. So therefore, right, if he lies, you won't come back there. So he doesn't want to ruin the business,
Exactly the same.
right? So therefore, if you're buying it from a professional merchant, right? So you can go to the store basically, right? If they're selling in the shoppers. Right, some tzitzis, and they have they're in the container with the hechsher on it, so you can presume it's fine, because he wouldn't take them out and switch it, because that will ruin his reputation.
This I gotta see.
However, mina hedjod, you just got some guy standing on the corner. I got tzitzis here. I got tzitzis. Right, this guy's standing on the corner trying to just buy it. Psula, those are puzzle. Va'afa pisha amru, even though they said ein adam rashai limkor talos mitzuyetzes la'ovei kochavim, even though we know the halacha is you're not allowed to sell a talis with tzitzis on it to a non-Jew ad sheyatzer tzitzis, until you untie the tzitzis. And the question would be, how did the non-Jew get the tzitzis? You're trusting him to have kosher tzitzis. How did he get it? That's okay, right? My time. What's the reason? Hachi targimu mishum. What is the reason why you can't sell a talis with tzitzis on it to a non-Jew? So this is how they explain it. Mishum zona. First of all, because the non-Jew might give a prostitute as payment for her services a talis with tzitzis on it. And she might think, oh, Jewish person, that he was Jewish. And then that is that'll make people will be saying bad things about Jews, right? So you don't want that. Rabbi Yehuda says Shema Yislave imo baderech, because what will happen is the non-Jew will take out his garment that he just bought and he'll put it on, and another Jew will think this guy's Jewish because he's wearing a talis with tzitzis on it, and he'll go walking with him between cities, and then v'yargenu, the non-Jew will kill him And he'll think that he was walking with a reliable Jew, and it was in the end walking with a non-Jew that he would never have walked with. So therefore, don't sell it to a non-Jew. Rav Yehuda Rami tchel de leparzuma de inshi beise. Rav Yehuda, he put tcheles on the garments of everybody in his household. V'mevarich kol tzafra, and he made the bracha every morning on his tzitzis. Lisa teif bat tzitzis. Made a bracha every morning. So midarami, the fact that he was putting tzitzis on every garment, meaning including his wife's garment, right? He put tzitzis on his wife's clothes. So why was he doing that? He held that it's a mitzvah that there's no time bound. It's not time bound, right? You wear tzitzis day, you have to mitzvah to wear it at night, so you have to wear it all the time. So therefore, why wouldn't a woman be chayav in it? Okay, so my mevarich kol tzafra v'tzafra. So why is he making a bracha every morning? He gets up and he puts on it. He's already wearing a talis from the night before, so he keeps wearing the talis. Why is he making new bracha? He's still doing the mitzvah. And if you would hold that nighttime isn't the time of the mitzvah, so fine. So in the morning it's a new mitzvah. But if he's holding it's a mitzvah all the time, why does he have to make a bracha? So it's Kerebi. So the answer is he holds like Rebbe. Tanya, he's learning the brisa. Tefillin kolzman shemanichon mevarich leim divrei Rebbe. So he says that any time that you put your tefillin on, so you're going to make a bracha, right? Even if you do it a couple of times during the day. So therefore, Rabbi Yehuda, every time he would put on a new pair of tzitzis, he would make the bracha. So ihachi, if that's true, kol shatanami. Why do you only make a bracha in the morning? Every time he changes clothes. So the answer of Yehuda, inish tzniahava. The answer is, Rabbi Yehuda was a very modest person. He didn't take off his clothes ever, except when he got changed in the morning. So therefore, since he was always wearing his clothes, so he never took his tzitzis off. So therefore, that's why he only did it in the morning, and really held that he was supposed to be wearing tzitzis at all times. So why did he do it in the morning? Because that's when he took off his pajamas and he put on his new clothes for the next day. So therefore, that's when he would make his bracha on his tzitzis. Okay, so Tana Rabbanan Rabbi Yisrael. Hakol chayavin betzitzis. Everybody's obligated to wear tzitzis. Kohanim, Leviim, Yisraelim, Gerim, converts, Noshim, women, Va'avadim, and servants. Rabbi Shimon Poter Menachos. Rabbi Shimon says not women. And obviously servants would be in the same category because they're a positive commandment that is time dependent. Women are not obligated. If they're time dependent, women are not obligated. Amar Mar Hakol Chayavim B'tzitzis. Here now let's explain this brisa. Everybody's obligated in tzitzis. Kohanim, Levim, Yisraelim. Kohanim, Levim, Yisrael. Pshita, obviously. Di Kohanim, Levim, Yisrael, B'tiri, Man, Lichayev. If Kohanim, Levim and Yisrael are not obligated, who is? Right? They're Jews. So the answer is Kohanim, Yisrael. I might have thought Kohanim are not. Why? Salko daitach. I mean, I would have thought the pasuk says Holksiv. The pasuk says Lo silbash shatnez tzemer vishim yachdav. You're not allowed to wear wool and linen together. And then right away afterwards it says Gedilim taselach. You're supposed to make tzitzis. So I might have thought Man delo ishtori kilayim legabe belevisha hu demechayev b'tzitzis. A regular Jew who's not allowed to wear shatnez, so then he's obligated to wear tzitzis. Hani Kohanim, but the Kohanim, hol vishtari kilayim legabayhu, Kohanim in this week's parsha put on an avnate, and the avnate has wool and linen, and so therefore, since Kohanim are allowed to wear shatnez, maybe they don't have to wear tzitzis. Lo lechayvu. So Kamash Malan, it says Nehidi Shtari be'idin avoda, just because they're allowed to wear shatnez during the service in the Beis Hamikdash, but lo idin avoda lo ishtari. They're not allowed to wear shatnez. Otherwise, they're not given a blanket permission to wear shatnez. Rabbi Shimon Poter Menachos. Rabbi Shimon says women are not obligated. My time at Rabbi Shimon. Why does Rabbi Shimon say women don't wear? The Tanya wear a brisa. Ureisem oso. You shall see them. Prat lichsus laila. That excludes nighttime garments. Right? You don't wear it at night. So Ata Omer Prat L'Chsus Lailo Elo Prat L'Chsus Yom. It says you have to see them. So maybe that's not nighttime garments. Maybe it says a blind person doesn't wear tzitzis. So Kishomer, it says that you're supposed to be covered with them. Harei Ksus Suma Omer. That means tzitzis that you're covered means even a blind person who's covered with his garment wears tzitzis. So Hamani Mekai Marisim. So what does it mean that you will see? So Prat L'Chsus Laila, that means nighttime, right? Your pajamas don't need tzitzis. Why did you decide the blind person gets tzitzis and the nighttime doesn't? It makes sense to include the blind person. Other people can see him. right? So at least that makes some sense. Except the pajamas, nobody sees pajamas. It's so dark at night, so therefore nobody gets to see that. V'Rabbanan, the Rabbanan says, Asher techasebo, my avdilei. What are they going to do with the pasuk of Asher techasebo? Right? How are they going to explain it? Because they say that, of course, a blind person is obligated in tzitzis. Why not? And they explain that you're even obligated at night. They need it according to what we learn in our brisa. Arba kanfos kesuscha. You put the tzitzis on the four corners of your garment. Arba velo shalosh, on a four-corner garment, not on a three-corner garment. Atamar arba velo shalosh. You say it means that on a four-corner garment, yes, but a three-corner garment, no. Ela arba velo chamesh. How do you know? Ela arba velo chamesh. Maybe it means that you shouldn't put it on a five-corner garment. Keshu Omer, it says Asher techaseh, but when it says that you shall be covered with it, Harei Baal Chamesh Omer, that means a five-corner garment does need tzitzis. As we learned, then you put four tzitzis on a five-corner garment. Ani Mikayim, so Mani Mikayim al Arba, so what does it mean on four? Arba velo al shalosh, means a four-corner garment you put tzitzis on, not on a three-corner garment. Umarais l'rabos balas chamesh ulahotzi balas shalosh. Why do you include the five-corner garment, not the three-corner garment? Marbani balas chamesh, you'll include the five-corner garment, sheish becha chamesh arba, because a five-corner garment has four corners. So it should be included. I'll include the three-corner garment, arba, because the three-corner garment does not have four corners. Rabbi Shimon may asher nafkan. Rabbi Shimon says, I learned that from the extra word asher also. So he has the same law. For Rabbanan asher lo mashmalu, and the Rabbanan don't have the extra word asher. So now, the Rabbanan, right, they say that nighttime, he says, Hai ureisam osam mayav dilai. What do they do with this, that you have to see it? Right? It means they excluded, Rabbi Shimon excluded night. They said that it includes night. So, we need it according to what we learn in a brisa. Re'isam also is chartam, you should see them and you shall remember. Re'ei mitzvah zu zechor mitzvah acheres hatluya bo. You should see this mitzvah and you will remember the other mitzvah which is connected to it. Ve'ezozu, what is that mitzvah? Kriyashma. Kriyashma is connected to this. We say the mitzvah of tzitzis in Kriyashma. The Tanan is we learn in the Mishnah. When do we say Shema in the morning? When you can see the difference between the tchelis and lavan on your tzitzis. Okay. Ve'tanya idach, and the other brayso risim also is chartem. Re'ei mitzvah zu u'zechor mitzvah acheres smucha la. You're going to see the tzitzis and you're going to remember the other mitzvah that is attached to it. Ve'ezuzu, what mitzvah is attached to tzitzis? Zu mitzvahs kilayim. The shatnez mitzvah, right? The pasuk says, "Those shabas shatnez temrafishn yachdav." You can't, but we'll learn together. Gedilim taselach. The Tanya Yidach, and another Raisa says, "Risim also you should see it." When you are a person is obligated in this mitzvah, nischayev bekol mitzvos, when you're obligated in all mitzvos, right? Rabbi Shimon, that's Rabbi Shimon's opinion. The Amar mitzvah sasei shazman gramahu. It's a mitzvah sasei shazman grama, which means that. That from the morning when you're obligated to wear tzitzis, that's the time when you are now obligated to do all the other mitzvos that you're obligated to do, right? Whereas women are not obligated in the tzitzis, so also other mitzvos that they are not obligated in. Others say that from the time you get to the age of 13 years old, when you get to mitzvos 13, then you are obligated in all mitzvos, right? Not tzitzis. Okay, there's a place for us to stop because we have another couple of titanias.
Going on and on.
I know, but I was giving it to 10:30.